Did you ever see that forceful moment when the person who's been pushed to the side at last says, "Enough is enough"? That moment when decades of silence, dismissal, and invisibility break into fierce freedom. That's what Kody Brown experienced, and it transformed everything. For years, Kody was the dutiful, behind-the-scenes wife in a polygamous union, attempting to keep everything from falling apart. Off the record, however, she was breaking down. As her husband Cody devoted himself completely to his newest wife, Robin, Kody was erased. Yet, despite this maelstrom of emotions, something within her would not let go. What ensued was nothing short of incredible. Kody didn't walk away from a failed marriage, she stood up, not only for herself, but for her daughter, truly. And she did so in a manner that shocked many, fearlessly, unapologetically, and with a sense of justice. So what actually transpired? How did Kody move from being another wife within a profoundly unequal system to a woman standing up for her rights and for her child's future? If stories of resilience, strength, and transformation inspire you, don't go anywhere. This is Kody Brown's rise, and you'll want to see every piece of it. Kody's transformation didn't happen overnight. For years, she existed quietly in the background of Kody Brown's polygamous family. In public, she appeared to accept her role. But inwardly, Kody was battling a painful truth. She felt unseen, unheard, and emotionally abandoned. Initially, she came into the family with a positive mind, eager to do her bit and stand by the man she loved. But polygamy, once a spiritual exercise that belonged to both of them, started to be a game of emotional survival. And Kody, she was losing out. The introduction of Robin was a definite turning point. Kody's energy, time, and affection were spent almost wholly on her, with the other wives, particularly Kody, fighting over crumbs of attention. The favoritism was not subtle, it was overt, and it destroyed something in Kody. Imagine pouring your life into a family arrangement only to feel erased in the process. Kody did. Her needs were disregarded, her emotions downplayed, her identity hidden beneath years of prioritizing others. But gradually, that silence became a clarity. She started asking herself one of life's most vital questions. What about me? It was during those quiet, secluded moments, far from cameras and words, that Kody started reclaiming herself. Her awakening was gradual, yet significant. The tipping point was when she recognized that she no longer wanted to merely survive in this marriage. She wanted to live, to thrive, to be noticed, and so she began to speak up. Initially, it was small stuff, small decisions, gentle boundaries. But then the big ones followed. She ceased trying to gain Kody's approval and began prioritizing her own happiness and her children's welfare. The transition was unmistakable. Kody transitioned from a person who had tolerated abuse to one who insisted on respect. It wasn't easy, though. Each step toward liberation required facing years of emotional hurt. When Kody finally attempted to vent her frustrations to Kody, she found herself met with apathy. He didn't want to know. He wrote off her emotions as in the way. That instant, unfiltered and devastating, was an eye-opener. If he wouldn't even accept her hurt, how could they possibly repair anything? It became horribly apparent. The marriage was no longer a union, it was a jail. The farther Kody withdrew into his affair with Robin, the more Kody knew she needed to withdraw into herself, to mend, to think, and to rise. The emotional abandonment had reached a point where it was too much. She'd given up too much for too little in return. It wasn't about Kody's actions anymore. It was about Kody's right to be in her own life, not somebody else's interpretation of it. With each step back from the toxic cycle, she uncovered fragments of herself that had been buried for years. But the bravest chapter of Kody's story, it happened after she left. Because this was more than a breakup. It was a fight for her daughter's future. Following her split from Kody, Christine took a radical and contentious step. She sued. She wasn't merely battling for her own serenity, she was battling to safeguard Truly's future. Money, stability, a clear legal position. Christine was taking no chances. Can you imagine the courage it takes to challenge a system that has mapped out your life for decades? Christine did it head-on. She insisted legal paternity be confirmed. She asked for child support. And she did it all as she moved from the guarded, religion-based order of polygamy to the legal world, where responsibility counts. It wasn't about revenge, it was about responsibility. Kody, even if emotionally distant, was still Truly's father. And Christine was determined that It wasn't about revenge, it was about responsibility. Kody, even if emotionally distant, was still Truly's father, and Christine was determined that he'd do his job, legally, financially, and morally. Her experience navigating the justice system wasn't a stroll in the park. Christine had never done this before, but she persisted, not only as a mother, but as a warrior on behalf of her child's health. The bravery of stepping out is merely half the equation. The other half? It's what you do after you take those final steps away. Christine employed her pain to power her. And now, she's creating a life that speaks for who she is. Beyond someone's wife, beyond someone's mother, but a woman who reclaimed her voice, her rights, and her future. If this tale inspired you, if you drew strength from Christine's story, let's discuss. Leave your comments below. Let's honor resilience, honesty, and the strength of lastly uttering, "I matter too." And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this remind us that even when it all falls apart, it's never too late to get back up again. This was not about revenge. It was not about clinging to the past. It was about a mother fighting to save her daughter's future. When Kody Brown walked away from her marriage to Kody in a bold move, she didn't do it for headlines or drama. She did it for something much greater, Truly's well-being. In a society where financial and legal security can make or ruin a child's prospects, Christine couldn't afford to gamble on anything. Leaving a marriage is one thing. Suing the father of your child, that's a whole other war. Christine wasn't battling for cash, she was battling for peace of mind. The psychological cost of delineating such stark legal lines with Kody was astronomical. After years of a tangled, emotionally charged marriage, having to unravel her family's intimate internal struggles in a public courtroom was devastating. It was raw, it was messy. It was never a fight she ever wanted to wage, but it was one she did. Christine recognized that Truly deserved a stable base, emotionally and financially, and she was willing to go to hell to ensure her daughter had it. Half the world might wonder, why make it legal? But Christine got what many fail to see. This wasn't about getting even, it was about getting secure. By insisting on Kody's legal acceptance of responsibility via child support and official custody, Christine guaranteed that Truly would have what she required to flourish, no matter what was wrong in the past. Christine was no longer playing the role of wife demanding fairness. She was playing the role of mother creating a future. Her moves weren't merely bold, they were profoundly maternal and extremely courageous. As Christine forged ahead, the backlash became starkly clear. The ripple effects of her estrangement from Kody didn't end with her. They swept through the entire family. Kody had always billed himself as the benevolent patriarch of a big, happy, polygamous family. But in real life, his priorities had changed years earlier. As his world contracted around Robin, the other wives, and even more importantly, their children, started to drop out of his emotional circle, and the kids picked up on it, particularly Christine's. Kids such as Truly, who had once known a gift-giving, present father, now felt the pain of his emotional absence. The silence, the distance, the neglect. It wasn't only painful, it was traumatic. Cody's efforts to repair these broken relationships came across as performative at best. The emotional harm had been done. His heart just wasn't in it. And the kids knew it on a deep level. The vision of polygamy the family had held dear, unity, mutual love, support, was coming undone. What had been originally envisioned as a robust, collaborative family unit had become something altogether different: a favoritism hierarchy, isolation, and emotional abandonment. Cody's blatant favoritism towards Robin and her kids didn't only damage the other wives, it broke the very foundation of the family. His kids felt forsaken, his reputation as a father and leader in shambles. This was more than a family disintegrating. It was the fall of a whole way of believing. But as Cody's world began to shatter, Christine was constructing a new one. Her relocation to Utah was more than a shift in landscape. It was a full-fledged rebirth. She was leaving behind not only a marriage, but a life constructed around the suffocating strictures of polygamy. And in leaving, she discovered herself all over again. No longer simply wife number 3, Christine was on her own, free to dream, to grow, to live. She made room not only for healing, but for joy. And what came next was one of the greatest demonstrations of maternal strength we've ever witnessed. And then something miraculous happened. She met David Woolley. With David, Christine found herself receiving what she had been denied for so long: respect from and for each other, safety with each other, and true love. Their relationship wasn't founded on duty, it was founded on partnership. Christine was finally seen, heard, loved. Goodbye to the shame of not being polygamous enough. In its stead, confidence, wholeness, freedom. Her romance with David wasn't about love alone. It was the period at the end of her reformation. In defending Truly's rights, Christine wasn't vindicating her independence. She was reauthoring the script her daughter would one day read. No more turmoil of the heart, no more doubt. Just a mum, willing to provide her daughter with the foundation she never received. Kody Brown didn't leave Cody. She made her way toward herself. Christine's story touched you. If it made you remember the strength we all possess to begin anew, then leave a comment below. Share with us which aspect of her experience resonated with you. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because stories like this one, they count, and we're just getting started. Christine's choice to pursue legal action wasn't based on bitterness. It was in response to furious maternal instinct. She knew something very important. In a world where financial and emotional support can determine a child's destiny, letting things happen by chance wasn't possible. Christine had to move, not out of anger, but out of love. This wasn't merely about child support or forms. It was about safeguarding Truly's sense of security, her emotional well-being, and her right to a stable life, untainted by the uncertainty that had shrouded their history. But Christine's breakup with Cody didn't only change her own life, it revealed a deeper unraveling. For years, Cody stood at the hub of a vast polygamous family, but with Christine out of the picture and his focus increasingly dominated by Robin, the fissures in his relationships with his other kids grew wider. Closest to Christine were hurt the worst. Cody, who had always professed to love all of his kids equally, now appeared to be emotionally absent, particularly to those beyond Robin's sphere of influence. His disregard was not subtle, it was irrefutable. Kids like Truly, once surrounded by a close-knit family, suddenly found themselves lost. The father they counted on had become distant, preoccupied, and emotionally unavailable. His efforts to reconnect rang empty. The harm had already been done. The price of Cody's emotional abandonment resonated throughout the rest of the family. What polygamy had promised, unity, shared mission, love, had begun to disintegrate. The family's idealized vision had been broken. In its place was pain, confusion, and abandonment. Christine's children were not simply mourning the dissolution of a marriage. They were mourning the loss of a father figure who no longer appeared when it mattered. And as his relationships with his children deteriorated, so did his reputation as a father and as a leader. Even the members of the family started questioning the very basis of the life they once used to hold dear. Leaving Kody was just the start. In Utah, Christine didn't only discover a new house, she discovered herself. No longer stuck in the position of wife number 3, Christine was free to discover her own identity. She no longer had to answer to the standards of a polygamous union. For the first time in years, she could dream, breathe, and create a life in her own way. This new beginning was all about freedom, healing, and transformation. She was finally free to pose the question, who is Christine? And she was prepared to respond to it through strength and pride. One of the strongest symbols of Christine's development arrived in the person of David Woolley, a man who provided her with something she had not experienced in years, good old-fashioned emotional support. As opposed to her marriage to Kody, which had been characterized by emotional imbalance and abandonment, her relationship with David was centered in mutual respect and genuine partnership. David didn't merely love her, he saw her. He cherished her voice, honored her history, and accepted her now. With him, she discovered stability and contentment. She discovered love without rivalry, affection without shame, and care without strings. Christine's relationship with David allowed her to put aside the shame that had accompanied her through her plural marriage. She was not living on another woman's terms anymore. She was writing the rules for herself. She stood tall, not as another wife in another woman's story, but as the author of her own. Her happiness wasn't coincidental, it was the product of hard work, of suffering, of bravery, of thousands of small daily decisions to prioritize her and her daughter. Yet even as she picked up the pieces, Christine wasn't about to let Kody off the hook. For years, she had been the emotional pillar of the family, while Kody became more and more withdrawn. But when it came to truly, Christine drew the line. She insisted that Kody become a father in more than just name, not as a theoretical, bureaucratic parent, but as an actual here for me father. This was never a battle about revenge. It was about protection. It was about making someone face up to the responsibility they had too often shirked. Christine struggled to ensure Truly would feel loved by both parents, only the one who remained. Kody Brown's story is not a divorce tale. It's a roadmap for change. She escaped an abusive marriage, insisted on equality, regained her identity, rediscovered love, and most importantly, she stood up for her daughter. This is what genuine strength actually looks like. This is what taking back your power sounds like. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with unshakable clarity and passionate love. Christine didn't simply walk away from Kody, she walked toward peace, joy, and self-respect. What do you think about Christine's journey? How do you feel about Kody's involvement in the breakdown of the family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take. If this story moved you, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter in this ever-evolving family saga. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.